Bonjour French 1, this is your section 5.1 video notes, all about some more activities and sports that you can add to your already pretty long list of things that you know how to say to describe what you like to do in French. Keep in mind that whenever you describe activities, you always have to have a verb, an action word, for that activity. The activities that we're going to do today focus on two verbs, the first of which is the verb jouer. You'll remember jouer from earlier in the year because it means to play. Jouer ends in the letters ER, so it follows that classic ER pattern where you drop the ER and you add those certain endings based on the subject that you're talking about. But I wanted to remind you about all the forms of jouer because as we learn more sports like tennis and hockey, if you want to say something like I play hockey, you can't leave it as jouer au hockey with the ER just like you're writing on your notes. You actually have to change the ending on it. So I wanted you to have these endings right here for you so that when you reference your notes and you do try to write complete sentences like he plays tennis, you know how to drop the ER and add the right ending. So don't forget, if you want to say I play, you would say je joue. If you want to say you play, it's tu joues. If you want to say he or she plays, it's either il or elle joue. To say we play, it's nous jouons. To say y'all play, it's vous jouez. And to say they play, it's either ils or elles jouent. Now the reason why I didn't give you time to repeat is because we've covered that before, but now as we start to cover those new activities, please make sure that you're repeating after me in the pauses. Also, don't forget that you do not have to write in the items that are in green. That's the pronunciation, and it's an optional thing for you. To get full credit for your notes and to have all the information that you have to have for class, you just have to write down those actual vocabulary words over here on the left in the yellow background. So let's go ahead and get started. To play basketball is jouer au basket or jouer au basketball. Either one works. To play video games is jouer à des jeux vidéo. To play hockey is jouer au hockey. To play tennis is jouer au tennis. To play volleyball is jouer au volley. And then the thing I want you to notice here, and the reason why I have these in two separate sections, is when you get to talking about playing instruments, instead of having jouer and then one of those A words like au for the masculine sports and things, à la for the feminine, instead of having those A words, when you talk about playing an instrument, it actually changes to those contractions of the forms of de. So things like du for masculine instruments, de la for feminine instruments, they would be plural. So just be aware of that, so hopefully you can kind of keep track of each of those. To play the drums is jouer de la batterie. To play guitar is jouer de la guitare. And to play piano is jouer du piano. So for our next group of activities, they're all going to center around the word faire, which we've learned faire earlier in the year. You learned it with like faire un pique-nique, which is to do a picnic, or to have a picnic as we say in English. Faire la fête is to do a party, which means going to a party, partying in general. Same kind of thing's going to happen here, but now we actually want you to be able to conjugate the forms of faire, so you can say things like I do biking, or he does a picnic, or whatever it might be. I know we don't usually say things like do biking or doing a picnic, but again, in French, they might use the verb faire to say something that we don't necessarily use the word do with. So you'll see how it doesn't necessarily translate word for word in just a bit. The bottom line is faire means to do, or technically mean to make. It's not going to come up in this section as it meaning to make, but either way, it talks about activities that you do. And it gets used instead of the word jouer for some of those activities where you don't necessarily play them, like you don't play biking, you don't play surfing, you do biking, you do surfing, and those kinds of things. This isn't a regular verb. It is not a regular RE verb with the SS endings that we learned earlier in the year. It is irregular, meaning you just have to learn the forms of faire. So I'm going to go ahead and walk you through them, and then remember, anytime you use one of these next vocabulary words or phrases that's coming up with the activities, make sure you actually change the word faire to make it match whatever subject you're using, so you're not saying something silly like I do biking, you're saying, or I too do biking rather, you're actually saying I bike, which would be je fais de la vélo or du vélo. So anyway, forms of faire include je fais, which means I do the activity, tu fais, which means you do the activity, il or elle fait, which means he or she does the activity, nous faisons, which means we do the activity, vous faites, which means y'all do the activity, and ils or elles font, which means they do the activity. So you use those forms of faire with this long list of activities, including faire de l'aérobic, which is to do aerobics, faire de l'athlétisme, which is to do track and field, faire du jogging, which is to do jogging. Ice skating is faire du patin à glace. Taking pictures and doing photography is faire de la photo. Doing skateboarding is faire du skate or faire du skateboard. To do skiing, and we're not talking about water skiing here, but snow skiing, is faire du ski. To surf is faire du surf. To do drama or to act is faire du théâtre. To bike is faire du vélo. And finally, if you like recording videos or video editing and all of that kind of stuff, you have faire de la vidéo amateur. For if you like to make movies but you're not officially a big Hollywood producer kind of person. Finally, they have a list of some miscellaneous vocabulary that includes some different items that you would need. Apologies for the misspelling of helmet. It should not be helmut. It should be helmet with an E. Either way, though, these are some things that will come up that you need to be able to do some of these activities and talk about them. The word for a digital camera, this is a long one, is l'appareil photo numérique. The word for a video camera, which is nowadays is included on all of our phones, is a caméscope. The word for a helmet that you might need for some of those sports and activities is le casque. When they say pastime activities, the reason why they're giving you this vocabulary word is it's the way that you spend your time, but they might ask you something like, what is your favorite pastime, or your favorite hobby is kind of a better way of saying it than pastime activities. So the word for hobbies or your favorite way to spend your time is le passe-temps. The word for a racket, which you need to jouer au tennis, is the word la raquette. And finally, the very difficult word for skis, for you to faire du ski, is the word les skis.